Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is William. This is Man Cave Media. As you can see, we are not in the man cave today. I live right outside Houston, Texas, so it is very hot this time of year. And in the man cave, my garage, we don't have any kind of climate control, any kind of AC yet, but that's in the works. But so in the meantime, we're going to shoot here in my dining room. This is a Friday. No one's here. It's just me, so no one can judge me while I, record this. So, anyways, today we're going to talk about how to collect in 2026. How to collect physical media in 2026. I feel like that some of my subscribers are brand new to collecting physical media. Brand new to collecting movies and such, and I took a hiatus for a little bit, and when I came back, I was a little bit confused about what I was seeing. So just want to give, like a quick little update of what, collecting physical media, collecting movies looks like in the age of 2026. Some stores aren't selling movies anymore. There's different formats, there's different ways to watch movies and such like that. And, maybe you're just coming back to, collecting physical media because you're tired of, the streaming services. You have giving money to all of them: Netflix, Paramount, Hulu, Disney. The list goes on, and they all want their cut. All want the chump change, and you're tired of scrolling and seeing that your favorite movie is not even available to watch anymore. So that's a lot of the reason why a lot of people is getting back into collecting physical media and owning your movies. So let's get into it real quick. We're gonna first start. We're gonna talk about TVs. We're going to then talk about players, and then we're going to talk about different formats of movies. So let's start with TVs. We're going to talk about three TVs, three modern type TVs, and kind of like the quick difference of them. Let's start out by saying, guys, I am not an expert in this field. This is just something that I kind of know, kind of figured out my own, did my own research, and just sharing with you what I learned. So first of all, we're going to start at the bottom and work our way up. So we're going to start with a brand called, or a format of TV called a QLED, and pretty much these TVs have a lot of different pixels in them. It's a lot nicer than your regular LCD or regular LED TV. These type of TVs, they have a more vibrant color. Your colors just pop off the screen. They're big, beautiful, and bright. And QLEDs will be great if you watch your movies or your TV in a room that's bright. It has a lot of sunlight coming in and whatnot. If you have a lot of windows, a lot of TVs will have the glare of the window on your TV, kind of distorting what you're watching. And these TVs can get a lot brighter. And when you brighten up a TV screen, it can block out some of that glare. So if you really want that, you watch TV during the day, you got a lot of windows, that might be a good, option for you. And again, it's a lot nice, bright, beautiful colors. So if that's what you want, then you can go and looking at that. The prices range differently from different brands, different sizes, but that will probably be the cheaper option from the other two that we're going to mention. So the next one we're going to mention is a mini LED TV. So mini LED is kind of like a QLED, but has way more pixels, way more LEDs, very, very small LEDs. And these LEDs were also, have really vibrant colors, and the blacks will also be, more noticeable. You get really nice blacks, you get really nice colors, you have all these very small pixels. So that might be also good if you have a bright room as well. Again, do your own research. But the last one that, and again, that's probably your mid-range of all these three. Again, prices will vary with different manufacturers and sizes of television that you want. But the last one that we're going to talk about is probably the most popular one in the physical media community, and that is an OLED, an OLED. So an OLED is probably the best option of these three. It's perfect if you watch in a dark room. You know, if you want to block out your windows with curtains or whatever, an OLED would be the best option in a dark room, because the cinematic picture of an OLED is way better than, you know, the other films. It's like watching a movie at a movie theater. The pixels on an OLED will completely shut off to show a black. You know, I'm talking about in a moving picture. You know, if the screen calls for black, those pixels completely shut off, giving you a perfect black. And so that can, again, be very cinematic, very pleasing to the eyes. And again, it's almost like watching a movie at the movie theater, but in your house. So those are going to run a little bit more expensive, depending on the product or the manufacturer and the size. I don't own any of these TVs yet. I own just a regular LCD, but when the man cave is ready to go, I am going to be purchasing an OLED. I'm looking at the LG. The LG has a couple of different models, and they actually have a pretty affordable one. They have like a 65-inch, I think it's called a B5, and it's like $900. So that's a pretty affordable OLED for a decent size. Also, if that's the route that you want to go. And you know, LG, they have, you know, they kind of step up. Again, do your research on these. They have a B series, a C series, and a G series. G being top of the line OLED. And there are some videos on the difference, and I've watched that, and I really don't see a difference, to be honest. But that's the TV that I'm looking at. I'm looking at the LG B5 OLED. And so those are the three TVs that we're going to mention that, you know, you might be seeing if you want to upgrade your TV to have a better picture for your movies. So now let's talk players. So everyone knows DVD. DVD has been around for so long. You know, if you're watching this, you pretty much know what a DVD is. I don't know if they still make DVD players. I'm pretty sure they do. But you can get like a DVD player dirt cheap, probably even free. You know, people are probably giving those away nowadays. You can find one at Goodwill for probably $5, $10, to be honest. But Blu-ray has also been around for a very long time. And Blu-ray was what I collected before I took my hiatus. And I'm going to talk about that in a coming up video about my collecting journey and talk about that hiatus. But, you know, when I started collecting again, the newest kid on the block was 4K movies, a 4K disc, and I was very confused. And they have 4K players that will play those 4K discs. But what's also very confusing is if you look at the case, it says a 4K Ultra Blu-ray. But those 4K Ultra Blu-rays would not play in a regular Blu-ray player. You know, you would have to get a regular 4K player to play those 4K Ultra Blu-rays. Very confusing, I understand. But why is a 4K Ultra Blu-ray called a Blu-ray if it doesn't play in a Blu-ray player? So technically it is a Blu-ray disc, but it's got an updated format to fit larger capacity media. You know, 4K movie has much better picture, much better sound, and you need an upgraded format disc to play that. So that's why they have the 4K Ultra Blu-ray disc, which is a Blu-ray, but won't play on a Blu-ray player. And fun fact in my research, I've learned that they had a play on words, and they call it a Blu-ray because a blue laser reads the Blu-ray disc and reads the 4K disc. And just to play on words, that blue laser, you know, is what reads it, so they call it a Blu-ray. And also in my research, DVDs and CDs are played on a red laser. Blue has like a smaller wavelength, so, you know, I'm not going to go into the whole science of what I learned, but that's pretty much why blue lasers are better than red lasers. We're getting a little off topic. So, DVDs are still sold today. You know, new formats like brand new movies, you know, are still coming out on DVDs. There are some studios who are removing DVDs. You know, a new movie would not come out on DVD on some companies who release movies. I'm kind of lost of words at the moment. But there are still a bunch that do. And one thing I also learned is that one of these companies, it costs next to nothing to put out a movie on DVD. And a brand new release on DVD is still going to run you about $15, $20. So if you buy that DVD for that new movie, that company or that, you know, wherever you buy from is going to make a nice profit off of that because it costs next to nothing to make a DVD. But if you still want to buy DVDs, you still want to have these new movies on DVDs, a lot of the options are available. But the only problem is that, you know, as we go along, these movies that they're making are longer and they're putting more memory and data into them. And yes, it can get put on a DVD, but you're cramming way more into that DVD, and the picture and the audio is going to suffer for that. The movie is still completely watchable. It's just not going to have as better picture or as better sound. In case if you were going to buy a Blu-ray or 4K movie of that version of that movie. Blu-ray is very, very slowly getting phased out. Very, very slowly. There are some studios for a new movie that's coming out, they will make you buy the 4K just to get the Blu-ray. Disney is one of those. Disney has done that a couple of times, that if you want the Blu-ray, you have to buy the 4K because they're going to bundle it all in one case. You know, you have your 4K disc on one side and your Blu-ray disc on the other side. Same movie, but that's how they're going to get you to buy the Blu-ray. So again, very slowly phasing that out. They did it back in the day when Blu-rays were coming out. You know, they'll make you buy the Blu-ray just to get the DVD, and they're doing that again now. But 4Ks are way more expensive than a regular Blu-ray. Like a brand new Blu-ray for a new release, you're going to spend about $25, and a 4K you might spend closer to $28 to $30. But again, that's pretty much the formats that you're looking at now. And also, if you go, you might run into something called a steelbook. Steelbook's been around for a long time. A steelbook is pretty much just like a DVD case, but it's metal. You know, it's made out of tin. You know, it's nice. It's way more expensive. You might pay about $35 for something like that. You know, it might have a different kind of art. Might have, you know, some more special features. But it kind of looks nicer. The only problem with steelbooks is they scratch easily and they dent easily if you drop them, which can lower the price dramatically if you ever want to resell it. So that's pretty much everything for the formats. And now let's get into where you can buy physical media in the year 2026. Like I said, a lot of different stores, brick and mortar stores, stopped selling movies and physical media in their departments. Back in the day, Target was my number one favorite place to go buy movies. You know, they had great deals. And Target no longer sells movies inside their stores. You can still buy them online, but again, you can never find them in stores anymore. Another one that kind of stopped selling movies was Best Buy. You can't buy any movies at Best Buy. I've heard that if you want a new release, you might be able to find a new release at Best Buy. I have not tried that for myself, but you can definitely call and see. But that's another one again that phased out any kind of movies or physical media. Who else? Let me think. Those were the big ones that I know of. Place like Walmart, Walmart's still a great place to buy physical media. Every Walmart is different though. If you like some Walmarts, the movie section is getting phased out smaller and smaller, and some are bigger. You know, the selection there would be better, but again, like every Walmart is different. Same thing when it comes to not your standard, you know, new releases and whatnot. You can actually find some releases at Walmart down the street that you can't find, you know, across town or whatever. So every Walmart is different when it comes to that as well. But Walmart's a good place to buy movies. I've heard, yeah, back in the day, Walmart had the $5 bin, which is like a mountain of movies, and you just dig through them. I have seen a few Walmarts online still have that. None in my area have that, which is really unfortunate. But that was a good time digging through that and seeing what you can find. But Walmart's a good place to still buy physical media, brand new. A good place to buy physical media used is Half Price Books. Half Price Books is a wonderful place to buy physical media. Depending on the title that you're trying to get, you might be paying more than some other places I'm about to mention where you can buy physical media. But I like Half Price Books. It's just, it's really fun. They have a huge selection. But hot tip about Half Price Books: once you enter, go into the back of the clearance before you go look at the movies up front, because the clearance has a lot of movies in it, and they're like literally half price of what they were when they were at the front of the store. But a great place to also buy physical media used is thrift stores and pawn shops. But pawn shops you need to call before, because there are quite a few pawn shops that don't sell physical media, but there are some that do. And pawn shops are a great place to get physical media dirt cheap. I'm talking like 4 DVDs for $1 or $1 for a Blu-ray, But call pawn shops before you try that. But anyways, thrift stores like Goodwill, mom and pop thrift stores, resale shops, perfect place to buy movies. But when you're buying used movies, always check the disc. Always, always, always check the disc. There's been a couple of times where I bought a movie and it's got like the art sleeve on the left side, and there's supposed to be another disc there, and it's gone. Or there's a disc that's double-sided and it doesn't have artwork on top, but you can see the rim in the middle and the title will be there, and it's not the movie that you're buying. So definitely check the disc. But thrift stores and pawn shops are a great place to buy used movies. Another place I would mention is probably like mom and pop video game stores. A lot of mom and pop video game stores are selling movies. So that'll be a good one to check out. Now let's talk online. Online has a plethora of movies that places that you can buy physical media at. Amazon, Walmart, Target, all great places to buy movies. If you think about Amazon and Walmart, hot tip: if you go to Blu-ray.com, you can click on the sales tab, and there's a tab for like Amazon, there's a tab for Walmart. It'll show you all these different titles, and it'll tell you if the price has dropped recently, or if the price is the lowest it's ever been for that title. I just learned that, and that's a really good tip, because then I found a movie that I want to pre-order, but I'm pre-ordering it for $10 less than I was about to pre-order it. So definitely a good place to look for sales. Another place I would say online would be Hamilton Books. Hamilton Books is a great place to buy physical media. You're buying brand new movies that are like overstocked. They're all brand new in the plastic. Great place to buy physical media. And another place I would mention is Groove.com. That's GRUV.com. Good place to buy physical media. They do a lot of sales. The only problem with Groove.com is the packaging. They're pretty much going to send your stuff in a paper bag. So I would probably not buy any kind of steelbooks from them, because it might get damaged on the way to your home. But I would definitely say that one. I have bought there before. It was delivered to me in the paper bag, but it was not damaged, luckily. So the last thing we're going to talk about, and I was very confused when I started collecting again what this was, and we're going to talk about boutiques. Boutiques are companies that have been licensed movies and titles from different sources, and they've been given the rights to resell them, but they've taken like a movie that's been stuck on DVD, or they're taking a movie that's stuck on VHS, Blu-ray, whatever, and they're upgrading it to a 4K format to make it, better picture, better sound, blah, blah, blah. And they'll probably throw in some special features along with that, stuff that you didn't get with any other kind of release. And they might also do some fun stuff like a poster or some art cards, or some other kind of fun stuff. Like I think like the Oceans trilogy, one of them came with like some dice, so they might find like throw in some little trinkets like that. But there's quite a few of them that do that. And another thing that they do is they might throw in like a really cool new artwork or slipcover, or like a chunky box, like a box, like instead of your regular DVD case, it'd be like in a box about that big and full of stuff. So that's the newest thing that I learned when I started collecting again. But a lot of those places, you can actually buy a lot of those boutiques at Barnes & Noble. Barnes & Noble is a good place to buy a lot of those boutique labels. And Barnes & Noble does a lot of sales for these boutiques. Some of the boutiques I wanted to mention is Criterion Collection. Criterion Collection is one of the biggest ones that people know about. They're very picky on what they add to their collection. And those you can definitely find at Barnes & Noble. Barnes & Noble really likes to sell Criterions. And fun fact, Criterion would do a half off sale at Barnes & Noble and on Amazon twice a year. So definitely look out for that one. I think the next one is coming out in July. And I think they're going to do it again in December. Another one I want to mention is Arrow Video. Arrow Video does a lot of like blockbuster movies, stuff from the 90s and 80s, and they bring it back with the 4K format and all this fun stuff. So Arrow Video is a good one. Another one is Kino Lorber. Kino Lorber and Criterion have done it for a very long time. They've been around for quite a long time. Another one I want to mention is 88 Films. 88 Films is a boutique out of Australia. Which brings me up to another topic. With DVDs and Blu-rays, if you're going to buy them from a foreign country, or they're from a foreign country, if they're from a foreign country, it's going to have like a symbol or a label on it saying it's from a foreign country, and it's not going to work in your American player. You have to get what's called a region-free player to play those. Now, right here is Brian from Last Movie Standing. He did a great video breaking down everything about region players and region-locked movies. So if you're curious about that, definitely check that out. But one great thing about 4K is it's completely region-free. Any kind of 4K from any kind of country, it's going to work on your 4K player. So that's the benefit of buying 4K. And there might be some titles that are on 4K that you can only get from different countries. But 88 Films is strictly Australian. You're buying it straight from Australia. And again, 4K, it doesn't matter where it's come from, it's going to play. But so if you're curious, definitely check that out. Another one I want to mention is Deaf Crocodile. Deaf Crocodile is another boutique that does mostly animation stuff. And a lot of these boutiques, especially Deaf Crocodile, they're bringing out movies to the light that have been lost for decades, lost or forgotten, and they're just bringing them back. And again, stuff from foreign countries that you've never heard of. So there's definitely a lot of boutiques out there. You can look them up. There's quite a few. Another one I want to mention is Shout Factory and Scream Factory. They're all the same company, and you can actually buy them on Groove.com. They've been doing it for a long time. Shout Factory is, all the different genres, and the Scream Factory is strictly horror. But good. But guys, I want to wrap this up. That's pretty much how what I've learned about collecting since I started collecting. I started collecting again about 2 years ago, and again, I don't want y'all to be as confused as I was, because this is the guide. Just want to do a quick little guide on collecting in 2026, what it looks like, what you can think about, and if you have any questions, just hit me up in the comments. And guys, I appreciate you sticking this far and watching my video. Look out for some more videos coming out. I got some more planned, and we'll get back into the man cave. And I appreciate you watching. I'll talk to you later.